Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is a beautiful Thursday, January 22nd. There is a lot of news from around the world of sports, and we're going to cover it all from the NBA to the NFL, all the way to the MLB, where the Mets and the Yankees are getting active, making moves, signing massive free agents. We'll break down all of that. We'll break down stars that could potentially get traded in just a couple weeks. The NBA trade deadline, February 5th. Who is unhappy in their current location and who needs to find a new home. We'll break all of that down and more, as well as going over the power rankings for the four remaining teams in the NFL today on the Triple Threat Show. But we're going to start off with the big news out of the NFL, that being, of course, I lied. We're starting with the NBA. I'm throwing everybody off here, but to help me out today, I've got my friend and co-host, Mayrob Fatemi. How are you doing today, Mayrob?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Keeping me on my toes, but I'm doing pretty well. Let's get
You
it
know,
done.
a little behind the scenes, little inside baseball here. I sent out my little game plan. I sent out my game plan maybe 5 minutes ago, and I'm already off of it. But we're going to get right back onto it so we can be successful here. Let's start off in the NBA, Mayrob. You put out a good short last night talking about a couple of potential NBA trades, including one with Karl Anthony Towns. The Knicks have been really struggling. They got a big win last night, 120-66 over the Nets. A big win is probably going to help them. Again, the trade deadline just a couple of weeks away. I believe now it is 16 days away. So these teams have to start making these tough decisions now. And the Knicks, well, they're definitely going to make the playoffs in the East. They are in a really interesting situation because they've been really struggling at the time where if you're a guy that wants to keep this team together, you do not want to be struggling, because now is the time when moves are going to and have to be made. Karl Anthony Towns has kind of been the poster boy for all of the issues with the Knicks. It's not all on him, but he's getting paid a lot of money. He's got big expectations, and he has not been playing up to those expectations. Does he get moved, Mayrob? And what kind of package are you looking at in exchange for a guy like Karl Anthony Towns?
So I took a deep dive into this kind of after my short. I made a brief short. I said I was going to come back later today. I'm going to come back later today. Stay tuned for that on our TikTok page on at the Triple Threat Show. We're everywhere you can find your podcast, social media, whatever. But as for Karl Anthony Towns, I think the Knicks kind of need to make a move here. They did. They're like 2-8 over their last 10. They're like 2-10 over the last 12. They have losses against the Warriors, the Knicks, the Kings. They have some really bad losses here. Um, but like I said, it just needs something needs to change with this franchise. You have a guy like Jalen Brunson. You just made the Eastern Conference Finals last season. The team looks like it should be headed for a finals run this season, especially with the state of the Eastern Conference. You could probably say they're the most talented team in the Eastern Conference right now, with Jason Tatum still hurt for the Celtics. But here they are, still sitting just 2-8, still going on losing streaks. Yeah, I know they beat the Nets by almost 60 last night, but still, when I'm looking at this Knicks team, they just need to make some changes. And who else to really think of? You're not going to trade Jalen Brunson. You're not going to trade your second best shooter in Mikal Bridges. You're going to shoot. You're going to trade the guy that hasn't been producing as much. Yeah, I know Karl Anthony Towns is still putting up 21 and 12 in his sleep, but he is shooting the lowest 3-point percentage of his career since his rookie season, actually. And we've said this before. He's a liability on the interior. Now I know he has fixed that a little bit. The numbers don't show it, but if you watch the games when he's going up against the Detroit Pistons, when he's going up against some of the better centers of the league, he struggles. He gets dominated by some of those guys. So when I'm looking at this Knicks team, I think they really need to find an anchor on the interior, on the defensive side of the ball. There's been a name that's been thrown out. The name's Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Memphis Grizzlies. His name's been thrown out a bunch. Now, I don't know if that's exactly the move they should make, because Jaren Jackson Jr. is not the offensive player that Cat is. But Jaren Jackson Jr. is also all the defensive qualities that Cat isn't. So I think that's one thing. If you're a Knicks fan, if I'm Leon Rose, I'm looking at that to think of if I should look at that and make that trade. That might be something that um that might antagonize me. Just something I look at it for if I'm making that trade. But if I'm being honest, I don't even think that makes sense. I just think the Knicks are kind of free falling here. They may be reaching their limit here. I don't know how you really make any moves unless you trade a Mikal Bridges and a Karl Anthony Towns to go after something bigger, say a Giannis Antetokounmpo. But even then, the Bucks have said pretty profoundly that they're not going to be trading Giannis to the Knicks unless Jalen Brunson is part of that package. So that's why I'm not even going to bring that up because I don't even think that's even feasible. But if I was looking for a trade, I would make, if there's any trade out there for the Knicks to make, it's probably Jaren Jackson Jr., and it's probably going to involve Karl Anthony Towns in a first round pick for Brandon Clark and Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, that is a really interesting trade. I don't think the Grizzlies are really in the trade JJJ market. They moved off of Desmond Bane. In my mind, all of the signs are them to moving off of Ja Morant as well, which leaves them really in a situation where Jaren Jackson Jr. is the only guy that is left for them to build around after they've cleaned house a little bit, unless they're going to go full tank, full rebuild, start completely fresh and over again, which I guess that's entirely possible with them. But it's not just Cat with the Knicks. I want to stay on them for a second here because Mikal Bridges has not been playing his best. They've been dealing with some injuries as well. This is a Knicks team that just all around has been struggling. And I know a lot of the blame does go on Cat's shoulders, but you can't just solely put it on him. The coaching needs to make the adjustments. They made that coaching switch so that this team would play better, so that they got that fire underneath them, and it looked like it was working for a little bit, but it does not seem like that is the long-term solution. The Knicks need to break up this Nova core because it is just not working with the chemistry, which is the opposite of what you might expect with a team that's played with each other for at least a year, made a deep run to the finals. The chemistry is not supposed to be an issue. And yet this Knicks team has a chemistry issue, and that is incredibly concerning to me. Even if you are going to make a trade, I think the Knicks might be in a little bit of trouble this year. There are some other teams that I'm looking at trades. You brought up the Grizzlies, so we'll start with them. Ja Morant seems like a guy who is 1 foot out the door already in Memphis. Memphis seems to be already ready to send him his packing papers, send him to a new team. The issue with him, Mayrob, is that he is not going to command a lot. He's going to command about a Trae Young package. You're talking like a Corey Kispert and a CJ McCollum for him, right? While those guys are fine players, that's not what you're looking for with a superstar that you've paid a whole lot of money. Ja Morant is not necessarily the kind of guy that's going to come in and completely transform your team, but he is the guy that can come in and be a very successful number 2 or number 3 guy. His ability, just his athleticism, if you get him bought into your team, if it's a winning team, he's going to make plays on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. He is that kind of special player. I think he brings more to the table than Trae Young does, simply because of his athleticism, his ability to get up, make plays above the rim, both on the defensive and offensive side of the ball. The issue is he just cannot shoot the 3 right now. It's just not falling for him. I don't know what needs to change. Something drastic does. But Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies, outside of JJJ, do you think the Grizzlies make some moves? And if so, where are some possible landing destinations?
So for a guy like John Morant, I think you said it best. I think he's just not going to command a package that the Grizzlies are looking for. Why? Because he's had some off the court issues. That's why he doesn't. He's not reliable to always be there on the court for your team. And if you're a superstar talent, you need to be there for your team on the court as much as possible, producing. Not only producing, he also has some injury history. But regardless, it's more of the off the court issues he's faced some discipline for that have really lowered his stock significantly. If I'm looking at John Morant, there's rumors that the Warriors might be interested after Jimmy Butler tore his ACL. I don't think that's going to work because I don't know how that's going to fit in that system. That's another point guard playing alongside Steph Curry. That's not what you need there. For John Morant, he needs to find a team that's already surrounded with pieces. He needs to be a team that's looking for a point guard, a distributor. A focal point of the offense is where he needs to go. He can't go to, or he's going to go to a rebuilding team. He can't go to a team like the Warriors that have that have just Steph Curry and nothing else. You can't go to even like the Pelicans. Maybe he could go to the Rockets. I could see him thriving with Ime Udoka and Kevin Durant, maybe. That's like the only thing I could really think of, though. He needs to go into an environment that can match his temper, can match his intensity. A team like the Suns, a team like the Rockets, a team like the Spurs, even maybe. I just don't see. I don't. There's not a whole lot of suitors for that kind of attitude that John Morant has, alongside with the fact that he's not worth a whole lot because he's not playing a whole lot. He doesn't play a whole lot because of his off the court issues. Those two things coupled together make it really tough to trade for John Morant right now.
Let's talk about a guy that also doesn't play a lot, and this is one that I've heard a lot of kind of sound rumors about. Zion Williamson, that 1 and 2 pick in that draft that was supposed to be so stacked. Zion just has not worked out, and I am a Zion truther. I will forever be a Zion truther. I think he has superstar potential. He just can't stay on the court. He can't stay healthy. So you're, again, not going to get too much for him. But we've seen it when he plays games, Mayrob. Mayrob, when he plays games, he's so good at basketball. And it kills me so much that he cannot stay healthy, that he cannot stay on the court. But there's rumors that the Wizards are interested in trading for Zion Williamson, which I think would set up a really interesting pair. Now, I don't know what they'd have to give up to get him, because you've got Trae Young coming back next year. You've got Zion. You would have Alex Sarr, who's one of the best rim protectors in the league. That means Zion wouldn't have to play the center position, put him at power forward. You've got a bunch of other young guys that can step up. Trey Johnson is playing great. He just shoots the lights out, shoots it from anywhere. Bub Carrington would be your sixth man, your point guard off the bench when Trae Young becomes healthy. And then you've got a whole lot of other young talent for this Wizards team. Bilal Coulibaly at that 3, one of the best defensive, one of the best players on the defensive side of the ball. That is pretty young, honestly. He's a great exterior defender. So there's a lot to like in the Wizards room, but what would you have to give up to get a guy like Giannis? And do the Pelicans even think about moving off of him? I think it would probably take a first-round pick because, again, it's not like this is a guy that can't play basketball. Whenever we've seen him on the court, he has been this great player. We just have not seen him on the court for any long stretch of time, and you need, again, the saying, availability is the best of ability, right? He's not there. You can't commit to him to be a long-term piece of your future because he cannot show that he can consistently be there for you to count on to be part of your future. Does Zion get moved? Can the Wizards afford him? Well, it's a weird situation. There's a lot of guys that I think could be moved that are big names that just don't have a lot of value right now.
Agreed, 100%. I don't think the Wizards are going to be in the market for him, especially after getting Trae Young. I think another team that's heard some rumors about him are the Chicago Bulls. I don't know how he's going to fit there either. I haven't really dived too deep into it, but the Bulls are another team that he's not going to go to one of these contending franchises. Why? Because he doesn't have the availability. These contending franchises are going to be looking for players on the market that not only play but that are just simply available, don't have off the court issues, don't get hurt a lot. You can get hurt. Injuries are part of the game. It happens, but not constantly out for months and months at a time, like Zion Williamson is. Zion Williamson, I know you said you're a Zion truther, but unfortunately he hasn't been trustworthy with the basketball to be led to be your superstar franchise player. He hasn't earned that right whatsoever. Yeah, his talent may command it sometimes, but the fact of the matter is he barely plays the game of basketball. He barely plays basketball. He's been out for months and months at a time. So when I'm looking at Zion Williamson, I think he needs to go to a place. He needs to go rebuild. He needs to go to a rebuilding franchise, a place where he can try and resurrect his career, that he can take over, that he can take control at the helm, If he wants to do well, that's what I would say. But I don't think he's going to be going to any one of those contending franchises. I just don't personally see it.
I got two more names for you, Mayrob, and I'll let you pick where you want to start. You want to start with the big fish in Giannis, or do you want to talk a little bit about Jonathan Kuminga and the Warriors?
Let's save the big fish for last. Let's go over to the Kuminga and the Warriors.
All right,
I
let's
know
talk
that's a
about Kuminga a bit here because he is fascinating to me, Mayrob, and I'll give you the floor here in a second. But the Warriors did not play him prior to that Jimmy Butler injury since December 18th. So, as you might expect, he requests a trade. There's been a weird vibe between him and the Warriors for a long time, but now that Jimmy is gone, they kind of need him to step up. And in his first minutes of basketball since December of 18th, he goes 20 points in 21 minutes. Pretty efficient from the field as well. That is a guy that has the talent. There's a reason he hasn't played. I don't know if it's personal reason. I don't know if it's a beef with the coach. I don't know if it's beef with some of the players. But when he's out there, he's got the talent, but it's not super consistent. If the Warriors want to continue to succeed with Steph Curry, because this feels like the last couple years, they might have to keep him around because they're not going to be able to lure any of those big guys. They don't have the money without completely blowing up any chance of being successful in the future. But does Kuminga even want to stay there? And that's why I think this one's so interesting, which is why I was saving it for the end here a little bit, because this one has more layers than just this player wants out because he's not playing. This one has more layers to it with a Warriors team that desperately wants to get Curry one more ring, that desperately wants to compete as long as they have Curry on their roster. There's just it's like a real onion over here. There's so many different layers that you could attack this situation from. Talk to me a little bit about this because I think this is the most interesting situation in the league right now.
Well, this has been the most interesting situation for the last 2 years. I mean, Jonathan Kuminga, at some point or another, we need to genuinely find out what Jonathan Kuminga has done in that on to those front office workers, to Steve Kerr, to GM Dunleavy. He needs to go out there and figure out what is going on. Mike Dunleavy, excuse me. We need to figure out what has gone on in that front office, in that relationship with him in the front office, because this makes no sense. I mean, if you go back to last season, last summer even, Jonathan Kuminga said, "I want to be traded." He said he's wanted to be traded for the last year and a half, 2 years now. His contract expires in the summer. It takes forever to get him re-signed because the Warriors consistently wanted to throw a trade clause in there. He kept asking for a no trade clause because, of course, he wants to play in a secure area, even in a secure place. He wants to be able to know he wants to just be able to play basketball for a team, do his job, and get paid for it, not be undercut like what's seemingly consistently happened with what Mike Dunleavy has done to him. Jonathan Kuminga has 16 straight do not practices and coaches decisions to not play. And then last night he goes out there, goes off for 20 points in 21 minutes, and immediately after the game, Mike Dunleavy goes back out there on the microphone and says, "I'm aware that in terms of demand, I'm aware that he demanded for a trade, but you need to have demand and need for you to make your demands." Whatever, you know what I'm saying. You need to have a demand out there for your player if you're going to demand to be traded.
Right.
Making seemingly that nobody wants him. All the players out there, you look at what Buddy Hield says, you see what Steph Curry says. Everybody says Jonathan Kuminga is a hard worker. He's a great basketball player. But it's always the coach, Steve Kerr, that consistently says he doesn't listen in practices. And then, like I said, like you see, does not play, coach's decisions to not play him, intentionally not play him. And then he goes out there for 20 points in 21 minutes. It just makes no sense. He's a talent that's being wasted out there. He's a 23-year-old just trying to make a name for himself. Like, I'm 22. If I was 23, if I was him, I would be losing my mind. I understand why he wants to trade out of there, and I understand why he goes out there and makes every opportunity he gets to play the game. He plays at a really high level because that's the only opportunity he has to get any sort of trade value in.
Yeah, the Warriors feel like they're gatekeeping him. They're saying no one else in the league can have you, but Yeah, I just don't want you to play. It feels a little bit personal between them, and I'm sure we'll get the full story eventually. But the issue is they kind of need him now. He can play that Jimmy Butler role. Maybe not the most consistent player in the world, but when he has his nights, he has his nights, right? This is a guy that has shown that he has talent. This is a guy that has shown he can be an NBA, not superstar, but a star level player in the NBA. But the Warriors just don't want to give him away, and they also don't want to play him. We're going to have to see what happens here because that is fascinating to me. I don't think he gets traded, honestly. If I had to put money on it, I would say the Warriors hold on to him. I think he finds a way into the starting lineup. At least he should, as long as he keeps playing this way. But that's just one game. It's a small sample size. The fact that he did that after not playing in a month is also insane. So, I mean, he's clearly got talent. He's clearly got skill, but there's something deeper in this organization that we don't know about between him and Steve Kerr, or him and the front office staff. Either way, it needs to get figured out because if they want to win anything with Steph Curry, they need to make their decision to move off of him right now, or they need to make their decision to hold on to him and actually play this guy because God,
Hmm.
it's just so it's so intriguing to me. And I'm like you said, I'm sure we'll find out more about this in the coming years. Because I'm gonna go back to this here because you brought up this point as well. The whole thing with his contract extension, he wanted a no trade clause. They said, no, we might trade you. No, we might trade you. We're not doing that. And it looked like he wasn't going to sign his contract. He ends up signing his contract for 1 year. He's going to be, excuse me, not for 1 year. He ends up signing his contract. He's there again, and there's still these same issues. It's like this team just cannot let any other team touch him, but they don't want him either. They just want to take him out, take him out of the pool as far as other teams going against them. I just don't understand it, and I'm sure there's some deep personal beef going on between the Warriors and himself. But let's talk about the big fish here, Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's been some tense moments in the last couple weeks, from him booing the crowd to him saying that the team is playing selfish last night. After coming back from injury, after the rumors that he would be traded all summer long, nothing has happened. But it seems like there's a split between him and Doc Rivers, which, I mean, shocking. But it feels like it's coming to a head soon. The NBA trade deadline, like I said, just about 2 weeks away at this point, 16 days away from the trade deadline right now. And Giannis is the best player that is the best player that will get traded or could get traded this trade deadline. But I'm not trading him to the East. Where am I trading him if I'm the Bucks? I know I'm not trading him to the East. You have to get a haul for him back. What kind of teams could even afford him, and what teams would be able to would be willing to mortgage their future for a massive trade? Because we've seen massive trades not really work out when superstars get moved because you just have to give so much up, and unless you win a championship, it just at the end of the day is not worth it.
Yep, completely right. Uh, Giannis also keeps flip-flopping, saying, I don't want to get traded. I never asked for a trade," and then being incredibly cryptic and secretly being passive-aggressive on the microphone and post-game press conferences, calling players out. He just he also needs to make a decision. Either request a trade, ask for a trade out, or just stay. Because you can't play this Mickey Mouse back and forth game. Um, but you're completely right. This is a really weird situation. This Milwaukee Bucks team has really wasted Giannis Antetokounmpo's prime. I mean, these are his prime years right now. I don't know how old. I think he's 31 years old at this point, 32 maybe. He's how old is he? He's 31. I mean, this is Giannis's prime right now. He's still averaging 28 and 10 in his sleep. He still has a 64% field goal percentage. He's a great player. He's still going out there and playing really well. The fact is, the fact of the matter is, the rest of his team is not playing well. The rest of his team is kind of trash, to say the least. No defense, no number two option for him to play with. His number two option is Kyle Kuzma and Ryan Rollins and Bobby Portis. I mean, what are we talking about? Cole Anthony. What are we talking about here when we're looking at this Bucks team? There's no real team. It's just Giannis out there doing whatever Giannis can do, and hopefully the Bucks can win games. I mean, at this point, I think he really needs to get traded out. I think he needs to request a trade out. I mean, it's getting really late here, especially with the trade deadline. There's only like 2 weeks left before the trade deadline here, but I mean, this is a really dicey situation for him and the Bucks. I know he's really faithful and loyal to this franchise, but I also think he needs to move really quickly, quick, fast, and in a hurry. The last thing I want to say though, Jeremy, I don't think he's going to be the biggest. I don't think he's going to be the biggest superstar traded, or at least I
Okay.
don't think he's gonna be the biggest trade superstar traded at the trade deadline.
Who's the biggest fish? What's the biggest move going on?
So there's some teams out here that I think, especially with injuries as of late, I think really is going to play a role in how they decide their future. Um, I don't know if you just picked up on what I just said. Jeremy, I think Steph Curry needs to get traded out of Golden State.
Okay. See,
Not
I
because
think because I think this is fascinating here because
I don't
Golden State's in a weird spot right now. Go for it.
they're in a really weird spot. I don't think it's because Steph Curry needs to get I don't think the Warriors need to trade him. I think Steph Curry just wants out. I think he should leave, especially with the last couple years of his career. The Warriors aren't going anywhere. Your last gasp was Jimmy Butler being traded to this team, and then hopefully being eye candy for a guy like a LeBron or like a Giannis to come over. The Warriors don't have assets, plain and simple. They don't have any assets to give up. They have no future. They at least foreseeable future. So, kind of what would be a win-win situation. The Warriors trading Steph Curry would not only bring them picks, bring them some assets that they could use and build upon for a future, but it would also give Steph Curry an opportunity to go out there and compete and possibly win himself another finals, which I think is all he would really want. I think this would be a really interesting situation for both sides. I think there's incentives on both sides to get it done. It's just going to be about if Steph Curry wants to leave, you know? I mean, we already know the family drama between him and Aisha Curry. I'm really not trying to get into that. Uh, we know, I mean, the team, we know how this is Steve Kerr's last year with the Warriors. This is his final year of his contract. Draymond Green's probably going to be done really, really soon. And like I said, there's no other talent. You have Brandon Pajimski, and I mean Jonathan Kaminga is already halfway out the door. There's not a whole lot going on with this Warriors franchise. It feels like it's got to be one of those situations where you just tear it down and rebuild it, not hold on to the past. And maybe the only way to do that is trading a guy like Steph Curry. Unfortunately, I know it sucks. I know every Warriors fan is just hating me and saying, "No, you're wrong, Marab. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Don't. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen." Yeah, it would probably be the worst thing to happen to fans of that franchise, especially what Steph Curry means to that area. But sometimes you just gotta move on.
And this is
Gotta
why the
move on.
Warriors are the most interesting team here in my mind here because you've got the Kaminga possibility. You have the possibility of them just saying, screw every single potential thing in the future. We're going for it right now, even though that is just not going to work out for them. So I will say this was the first thought I had when Jimmy Butler went down. They should trade Curry. Or what are they going to do? They're either going to trade Curry or they're going to make a big move to bring someone else in to replace Jimmy. The only way that they could afford that is by trading Jimmy. Now, that's possible. I don't know which team would agree to take on a 36 going on 37-year-old guy who just tore his ACL. Uh, but it's possible, I guess, that a team or that Jimmy Butler would be interested in that. What I will say, if Steph Curry had not made those ads that play about 30 times a day on that ESPN website, loyalty. I'm all about loyalty. I've played in the same place my entire career. I have. I always take the same shot from at the beginning. You know the ad I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
I imagine if he left after that being plastered all over the internet for months and months and months. This is a possibility for sure. I don't think he leaves Golden State. I can't picture him playing for any other team simply because he's built his brand on being this loyal guy, this homegrown guy. And I think that means something to him. I think his image in the public means something, and it should. Steph Curry is not in a situation where he needs to ring chase. He's been the leader of one of the greatest dynasties of the modern era, right? He's won so many rings. He's got his Finals MVP already. He did it post Dynasty. He's done all of this stuff. He has every single box checked off. There's no personal glory for him to chase. He's won multiple MVP awards. He has been a unanimous MVP. He has again won a bunch of finals. I don't think he forces his way out. And I think the only way that he leaves is by saying that I want to leave. And I just can't picture it happening. Would it be good for his career, for his want to go and win another championship? Yeah, for sure. I don't think Steph Curry is going into that Golden State GM's room, going into his office, and I don't think he's saying, I need you to win me another championship. I think this is a Warriors initiative more than it's a Curry thing. I think Curry is happy that they're trying to win around him, but I also don't think he's going in and saying, I need you to get me a star. What do you need? What are you gonna do if what do you think I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna ride out my sunset years here. I think he could. I don't think he asked for a trade. It's definitely a possibility. So I'm going to leave that up on the table as a possibility. But just the way that he's cultivated his image, the way that he's played his entire career, and the idea of his loyalty. I know we've seen stuff like this with Dame, who was this super loyal guy, goes out and tries and win a ring, but he never won a ring in Portland. That's the difference. In Golden State, he's had all the success in the world, and there's nothing for him to chase other than, I guess, another championship. But he's got everything he needs, and I don't think he leaves. Now, if they had come short all those times, he's already gone. He's been gone. He's been gone really ever since the year after they drafted James Wiseman at number 1 overall. Right? He's been gone for 5 years in that situation, but. They won. There's no reason for him to leave. I just don't really see Steph Curry moving. But I do understand there is a lot of good reason for Steph Curry to potentially be on the move. I was actually going to end this off here saying we just talked about a lot of names. I don't think most of them get moved. I think it's a quiet trade deadline. I don't think Giannis gets moved. I don't think Curry gets moved. I don't think LeBron gets moved. I don't think Ja Morant gets moved because I don't think a suitor's really going to pay for him. I don't know if Cat gets moved. I think the Knicks kind of keep the band together and they rebound because this is still a good Knicks team. We saw the way that they played at the beginning of the season. Zion, I don't know if he gets moved. Again, it's just going to be if a team is willing to pay for him. Him and Ja Morant, I think, are the two most likely to get moved. But after that, I'm looking at a pretty quiet trade deadline. We saw Trae Young get moved already. I'm sure we're going to see some movement around the margins, expiring contracts for bench pieces that can help expand playoff teams' depths. But as far as stars go, maybe one, maybe two. These big names, it feels like a quieter trade deadline to me this year. Of course, last year was quiet except for the Luka nuke that just completely obliterated everything in the NBA. And I think we could see something similar like that with one more major move, maybe a Giannis, maybe a Zion kind of thing. Won't live up to that Luka news, but I think we only see one of all these names that we went over get moved from the team that they're on right now.
I think you're right. I could see what you mean. I think even John Morant, like 2 days ago, notified the GM of the Grizzlies and said, I don't want to be traded," and then goes out there and has a really big game in London against the Orlando Magic. I don't know. All signs are really showing that the only real trade that might happen is Giannis from the Bucks, just because of how the Bucks are playing right now. They're the only team that's really struggling. I don't really see Steph Curry's trade happening. That was just something hypothetical that might make sense, but I honestly
It
I
makes
agree
so
with you.
much sense too. It really
It makes,
does.
but I think you're right. I think he's too much of he's a truther to that area. He's gonna stay a Warrior for life. He um personifies he's pretty much the current Kobe Bryant in a way where he just personifies that loyalty and staying in that area. He's not going anywhere. But I think question if he's going to finish the season with the Bucks, and he just said, I don't know. He just shrugged and said, I don't know. Like all signs are showing that their only real trade that might actually happen is Giannis. But the problem is, where is Giannis going to go? This is something that we're going to have to keep our eye on and probably circle back to every couple days, honestly, Jeremy.
We will. We're going to talk more about this as the time goes on, but we've spent 35 minutes on the NBA, so we've got to talk a little bit about the NFL. The NFL is king, Mayrob. I love some basketball, but it's not quite basketball season yet. We're going to do full basketball takeover once the Super Bowl ends, but right now, we need to focus on this coaching carousel because it continues to spin. It goes faster, and the ride, Mayrob, it never stops. So we have a couple of big pieces of news from the coordinator search. Of course, the Bills fired their head coach. They're still looking for a new one. They've interviewed Joe Brady. They're interviewing Brian Daboll, and they're going to interview Anthony Lynn, former head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. But this is the most fascinating thing to me is what happened at the press conference the other day with owner Terry Pegula going up and just stealing the show away from Brandon Beane. He threw multiple people under the bus. He threw the refs under the bus. He said he caught it, which, maybe, kind of. He didn't catch it, though, because he didn't end up with it, and the ball never touched the ground, and he never had full possession. But that is a different discussion for an earlier time. He threw Sean McDermott under the bus. And at the same time, he threw Keon Coleman. And this was the most fascinating thing for me, under the bus. Keon Coleman is still on the Buffalo Bills. I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but Keon Coleman still a wide receiver on the Buffalo Bills. He was drafted a couple years ago, very early on, 33rd pick in the NFL draft, second round, and Brandon Beane was a big fan of that pick. I was a big fan of that pick. A lot of people around the NFL were big fans of that pick, and Keon Coleman just simply has not lived up to those expectations. But to have your boss go up in front of everyone, in front of the world, and say, guys, I want to clear... This is unprompted, by the way. Brandon Beane is being asked a question about Keon Coleman, about why he wasn't playing, and unprompted, he says, hold on, let me talk. Let me spit game real quick, hold on. He says, this is not Brandon's fault. He never even wanted Keon Coleman. This guy... He's a bust. He never even wanted him. This was all Sean McDermott's fault. He was the one that wanted Keon Coleman. And look, this is, I won't say fine, but this is a little bit understandable if this guy is not on your football team. Like, if he is flamed out, if he's out of the NFL and he's not on your football team anymore, sure, understandable. This guy is your wide receiver one on the outside. Khalil Shakir is the true wide receiver one, but he's a slot guy. He's not an outside receiver. Keon Coleman is your wide receiver one on the outside. And you are throwing him completely under the bus. That is ridiculous. I've never seen anything like that in the NFL, where an owner comes out and says, yeah, this guy sucks, and this guy continues to hang around. Free agents? Sure. Guys that are on different teams now? Sure. Guys that are on your roster, he's got to get cut now, right? Like, he's got to demand a release. There's no other way to go from here, right?
Yep. Like, Keon Coleman has already had some issues. I think he's a good player that just hasn't worked out. Worked out in Buffalo, unfortunately. But I think he has a whole lot of talent. I mean, there was a lot of firestorm about how he was dropping a lot of passes. And then he had a whole lot of did not play in coaching decisions to not play towards the end of the season as well. The only reason he played really in the end of the games here, especially in the AFC divisional round, is because the Buffalo Bills wide receiver core was decimated. He was completely decimated. There was nobody else that could play outside of a Keon Coleman. So I think he's a good player. I think he has a whole lot of potential. I think he still has potential. But I think he has to request his release at this point. I mean, You can't play for a guy that throws you under the bus like that. And even then, if there's already been tape coming out that surfaced of Brandon Beane going out there and saying, I don't know if you mentioned this, Brandon Beane being like, I want this guy. He was mentioning how Keon Coleman, I think he ran like a 4.56 um 40 yard dash. He's saying it was kind of slow. This is a good player though. He might fall to us in the late in the draft. Luckily he did. Pagula goes up there and says, "Oh no, it was Sean
It's
McDermott's
all
choice.
Sean
He
McDermott.
commanded that. He commanded that they he Brandon Bean was just trying to be a coach, a team player to draft Keon Coleman. When and realistically, if you go back to the tape, they both wanted him. I don't know. I think Terry Pagula already has a history of ruining franchises, the Buffalo Sabres, and we already see what's going on with that franchise. So this may be another situation like that. I think this is good. This could have a whole lot of ripple effects here, not only with Keon Coleman, but throughout the rest of the franchise.
Yeah, and that's interesting because now the Bills are looking for a head coach to work under Terry Pregula. And I mean, that's not necessarily a vote of confidence after throwing your longtime head coach under the bus, a guy that's been nothing but successful. He won 90 games while he was over there. Like, he almost won 100 games in 8 seasons. That's ridiculous. That's incredible what he's able to do with that team. Of course, having Josh Allen helps just a little bit, but this yeah, just a little bit. But this is still a really successful coach, and he's going to land on his feet. They're looking for new coaches. They've interviewed, like I said, a couple guys. I feel like they go with a guy that's been in that building before, either a Joe Brady, who's currently in the building, or they're going to go with Brian Dable, who news around Brian Dable is either going to get that head coaching job or he's going to be the offensive coordinator for the Titans with Cam Ward, head coached by Robert Saleh. And I love that pairing. That is a great pairing. Look, you can say what you want about Brian Dable as a head coach. I still think he was a good head coach. He got the most out of Daniel Jones, at least until Shane Steichen. Good offensive minds, get the ball out quick, do it with the run game, right? You know how to be successful with Daniel Jones. He put out the blueprint for that. He is the guy that helped turn Josh Allen into an MVP candidate. Cam Ward, I think, has a lot of talent. He doesn't have a lot of talented players on his team to get the ball to. He doesn't have a lot of talented receivers, but Brian Dable can work with that. He has worked with that. Everywhere he's been successful, they've not really had a great wide receiver, and the Titans can fix that in this draft by grabbing a great wide receiver or by shoring up that defense. But I do think that he won't get. I do think he's getting that Tennessee job. I don't think they'll hire him in Buffalo, or at least if they do, it would be kind of dumb. But talk to me a little bit about Brian Dable and also Brian Flores agreeing to a very similar kind of thing where I'm either going to be a head coach or I'm going to be the defensive coordinator for Minnesota. I think it's kind of fascinating that these teams are willing to agree to this. These guys are great coordinators, so it's fine that they're doing this, but this feels like a weird trend that's starting to come up more and more in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, I think Brian Dable's one of the biggest names left on the market here to be a head coach. I'm with you, Jeremy. I think he did a pretty good job with Daniel Jones. He brought them back to the playoffs for the first time in a decade. I mean, and he's the only guy that's brought them any sort of relevancy here in the last 2 decades since then. I think Brian Dable has a lot of poise. I see him kind of like a Mike Vrabel-esque guy, where he commands a locker room. He commands a leader of men. He's the voice of the locker room. He's just a player's coach, and players love to play for him, is what it seems. The funny thing is he's already denied the opportunity. The Eagles tried to interview him for their offensive coordinator job, and Brian Dable already said no. So I love that about him. He's saying, I'm not going inside the NFC East to go to another team. That's not happening. And on top of that, I mean, Brian Dable's already meeting with some of these Bills front office guys. He's meeting with Brandon Beane. He's meeting with Terry Pagula later today. So, I mean, we may see another head coach being announced later today with Brian Dable. Is it the right move? I know Josh Allen loves him. He respects him, and I think that's going to be a big part of if he gets hired. Is he the right guy? I don't know, because I do think Brian Daboll's another defensive-minded head coach, and I think you need to get a offensive guru over there that can really take over and unlock Josh Allen's potential. But that's not for me to say. I think Brian Daboll is a fine head coach, so let's just give him an opportunity to see how it goes. Outside of that, you brought up Brian Flores. He did sign a contract. He has a contract in place. He's going to be staying in the coaching carousel. So if any head coaching opportunities land that he likes, that intrigue him, he's going to take that. But if nothing intrigues him, if it's going to be like the Browns that want to make him want to make him the head coach, and he doesn't want to go to Cleveland, he can just fall back and say, "Oh, it's okay. I already have a deal over here with the Vikings." He has insurance, so to speak, that he can just fall back on, which I think is really smart and kind of a win-win situation between the Vikings and Brian Flores.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I think both of these coaches having those coordinator jobs set up if they don't get the jobs would be nice. I think Brian Daboll does not get the job up in Buffalo. I do think Brian Flores gets a job either with the Ravens or the Steelers to be their next head coach. But let's go with what's on the title, because we can't skip this here. It is time to go over the final four power rankings, Mayrob. There are four teams remaining in the NFL: the Broncos, the Patriots, the Seahawks, and the Rams. Now, on its head, these seem like the correct final four teams. You've got the 1 seed, you've got the 5 seed in the NFC. You've got the 1 seed and the 2 seed in the AFC. But this obviously comes with a caveat here. No Bo Nix. No Bo Nix. And Jarrett Stidham is going to be your starter moving forward. Now, the NFL has a long and storied history of being a league where backups can succeed, right? Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. You go back to the 2000 Giants. They won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer was a backup for a while. Tom Brady was a backup for Drew Bledsoe when they won their first Super Bowl, right? There are plenty of guys that have come in and won Super Bowls, but let me tell you something about Jarrett Stidham. He's not one of those guys. The Broncos are number 4 on my list. They're pretty comfortably number 4 on my list. They're pretty deep down there at number 4 on my list, and I don't think they really stand a chance against this Patriots team unless their defense plays the best game of football that they've ever played in their entire life. Number 3, though, goes to the Patriots. I just think the NFC has those better teams right now. I think the real Super Bowl matchup is the one on Sunday night. But that being said, the Patriots still got a shot. As long as Drake May does not keep fumbling the football, which he has not been able to keep the ball off of the ground. He's got the ability to do it. We've seen it in the regular season, but these are great defenses that he's been going up. These are great defenses that he's been going up against. The Texans, now the Broncos, before the Chargers. These are all great defenses, and they've all been hunting that football. He needs to find a way to hold on to it if they want to be successful, especially in the Super Bowl if they were to play the Seahawks or the Rams. The Rams find themselves here at number 2. They're a great team. They've just played too many close games in the playoffs here, and I simply cannot overlook what the Seahawks did to the Niners. They're the best team in football right now. 41 on their head, win by 35 points. This is an absolute dominant. That's just a team with an absolute dominant front. Their defense is elite. Again, that's kind of been the key this season. It's the year of defense, as we've coined it here on the Triple Threat Show. They've got a lot of places to go, and up seems to be the only way. The one concern, Sam Darnold is still your quarterback, and I don't really know if he's the guy that's going to be able to take you to the promised land. That game with the Rams is going to be a battle between offense and defense. And I think the defense wins out right now, but they've been so close the other 2 times. I think the Rams probably should have won both of them. The fluky 2-point conversion that ended up sending that game to overtime, or part of the comeback that sent that game to overtime. Sam Darnold's thrown 6 interceptions against the Rams. We'll get into a preview tomorrow. I'm getting too deep into this, but Seahawks number 1, Rams number 2, number 3 is the Patriots, and number 4 are the Denver Broncos. What's your list, Mayrob?
It's pretty much the same. The only flip-flop I have is actually the Rams and the Seahawks. I know.
Blasphemy.
I just can't. I know. I just can't. I am still tempering my expectations with the Seahawks team. I think what really did it for me is losing Zach Charbonnet for the Seahawks I think it's going to make a bigger deal than people think, because I think that's a really not only a dynamic duo in the backfield, I think it just brings a whole other element to the game, to the Seahawks playbook that they have, be having a power rusher versus one of those more agile, flat receiving halfback kind of guys in Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's getting the full load over there in the backfield. So I think that's going to be not only an issue for the Seahawks offense, I think it's going to be an issue for Sam Darnold being able to throw, especially with that oblique injury. I think it could rear its head if he gets hit a couple times. That Rams front is still really underrated with Sean McVay. I think we still forget that Sam Darnold had that game last year against the same Rams team when he was with the Vikings, where he got sacked 7 times and threw like 3 picks. We still somehow forget about that. I am really worried that that could rear its head again on Sunday. Is it gonna happen? I don't know, but I'm gonna roll with the Rams in my number one. Seahawks 2, Patriots 3, and Broncos 4. Last thing I'm gonna say, and sneak peek to tomorrow: don't underrate Jarrett Stidham. Don't underrate Jarrett Stidham.
I'm gonna underrate Jarrett Stidham. That's a little preview for tomorrow. I'm gonna underrate Jarrett Stidham, and there's nothing you can do to stop me.
We got a fun preview tomorrow. We got a fun preview lined up for us tomorrow.
Anyway, thank you everybody so much for tuning into today's episode of the Triple Threat Show. There's a lot to get to. Tomorrow, we will preview all of the NFL games, the 2 of them on championship weekend. We'll cover some more baseball. I'll do a baseball show tomorrow night with Hayden Raymer, rounding third tomorrow night. We're going to talk all about the big moves in baseball. Yankees sign Bellinger. The Mets make 2 big trades, along with a lot of other updates, as I don't think we did our full baseball show since Kyle Tucker signed a deal with the Dodgers. So make sure you check that out on Friday night. But tomorrow, NFL preview and much more. We have been your hosts, Jeremy Lapidus and Mayrob Fatemi. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.